In this video, we'll go over viewport shading, and this is going to be important as you start working on more complicated and intricate objects. So let's start at this first button here. So when you click here, it says selectability and visibility. You can toggle selection and visibility for different type of objects that you have in Blender. For example, if we turn off selection for mesh objects, then if we make a drag selection, it's not going to select the mesh objects. So it sort of very quickly turns off selection for an entire collection or set of mesh tools, mesh objects. So very quickly and easily, you'll be able to sort of make mesh objects unselectable. Maybe you want to hide the lights. In that case, you can see now lights are not being selected. So you can do that, and you can also sort of hide them in viewport if you want to. The next set of tool is viewport gizmos. This is going to make more sense if we enable our move tool, so the gizmo that we have for the move tool. By default, you can see we have this navigation controls on the right. Some people don't use these. I also don't use them, but for this course, I kept these turned on. Then we have our active tools. Down here, we have gizmos that can be enabled. So even if you have the selection tool enabled and you want to see the move tool at all times, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Next, we have viewport overlays. This is more of an important menu that we use oftentimes. So here we can turn on now things like our floor. So what usually people do is that if they want to sort of have a clear look at their object, they just simply click on this icon and you can see it hides everything. The grid, and even if you have the object selected, it's not going to display the outline around it. So you can sort of make that appear really quickly. And then within that, you have individual settings like your floor, you have your X, Y, and Z axes. So we can toggle those. If you want to enable this Z axis, you can also do that. Down here we have our text info, so this displays the text info on the right side there. And you can sort of play around with these. One of the important things that you might want to use is face orientation. It tells you the direction in which your object is facing. Also, I'm going to turn off the Z axis. So this blue side means that it's pointing towards outside. And if we go into edit mode and select this face and then press Alt N, this is going to open up the normals menu. Let's flip it. And now you can see that I can very easily tell that this is pointing inside and this red color is the outside of the face. So this sort of faces inside out. I'll go ahead and press Ctrl Z. Another thing that you might want to use is this wireframe option. It displays the wireframes on your objects. So if we go into edit mode and right click, subdivide this object a couple of times, you can see that it's going to display the wireframe at all times, even when you're not in the edit mode. And here you can change the wireframe and also its opacity if you want to sort of highlight it slightly. You can hide your 3D cursor. You can change the scale of your 3D grid. I'll go ahead and right click and reset this value to default. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Next, we have our X-ray mode. This is really helpful when you have an object that you're working on. So in Blender, inside edit mode, when you're selecting these vertex points and you make a drag selection, it's going to only select what's visible on your screen. So it's not going to select the vertices on the backside. So if you want to select that, then in that case, you can enable the X-ray mode and you can see you'll be able to sort of see through your object and you can make a selection like that. Now I use the keyboard shortcut Alt-Z to toggle this on and off very quickly. Next, we have our wireframe mode. So it displays your object in a wireframe, all of your objects, your entire scene. Next, we have our solid shading, and then we have material preview. So this is going to display the materials on your object. For example, if we click on this material tab and change our material color, you can see that it's visible in the material preview. But if we go to solid shading, it's going to turn back to the default material. Finally, we have our rendering. So with this, we can enable our rendering. Also, you can click on this icon and then it's going to change depending on the mode that you're currently in. So if we're in solid shading, we can tap here and then here we can select matte cap, click here, and then we have a number of different choices. So this is really good for sort of looking at your object quickly in different materials. So if you're working on like something cars or those kinds of things, so you can select these different mattes. For example, this very reflective one. And there are some more like these clay ones, so it makes your object like a clay. And then down here again you have X-ray mode. You can toggle that on and off and you can change the transparency amount. You can enable the backface culling. You can also change your object colors. By default it's using its material, but you can make it random. And let's go back to the studio lighting. So now every time when you create a new object, it's going to be assigned a random color. You might have seen this online a lot of the times. And then we have the wireframe color. You can set it to random object, so the object color is going to match to the wireframe color. And then we have the background, so it's using our settings or preferences theme. You can set it to your world color, or you can set it to the viewport, and then here you can change the color. So this is just like sort of playing around with these different settings and stuff. Now to switch between these different modes, you can press Z key on your keyboard, and you can see it opens up this pie menu. You can select wireframe, solid shading, rendered, and material preview. And if you want to sort of quickly toggle this wireframe mode, you can press Shift Z. So that also sort of does that. So these are some of the settings for our viewport shading. So that's how you can sort of play around with these.